Over the past few weeks, DC Comics has officially begun to roll out their Absolute Universe. What does that mean? We're going to be talking about it today. I'm Thomas.
I'm Merlin.
Together we're the Comic Lads, and today we're talking about the Absolute Universe in DC Comics and how bright the future seems for it.
Before we get into it, guys, question of the week. Have you read any of the issues of the new Absolute comic line? Let us know which one is your favorite if you have and what you think of this universe going forward. And also don't forget to like the video. It really helps us out. And consider subscribing. Become a Comic Lad.
Become one with us. That's scary.
Yeah, dude. This comic line, I have to say, is very refreshing because, you know, we brought it up off camera, but this feels like DC's equivalent to the Ultimate Universe.
It absolutely is.
In Marvel.
I didn't mean to say absolutely. I'm going to be saying that a lot this video. And I feel like we've been kind of, not pitching it, but kind of saying that like for years as fans, like why doesn't DC just do an Ultimate Universe? And then like it's clear that Scott Snyder and all of them had that idea and they were like, yeah, why not? So should we talk about how their Absolute Universe has come to be?
Absolutely. How many abs? We gotta have an absolutely counter on this video.
So before we get into the absolute issues, we first have to talk about a little comic called DC All-In #1. This is kind of like the new jumping on point for this new line of storytelling in the DC universe. It's pretty much all about Darkseid.
It's about Darkseid, and I love how the issue starts on a very positive note. You know what I mean? Like Superman's handing out all of these new membership cards to various people in the DC universe, creating this ultimate Justice League team.
Yeah, they're finally making the Justice League Unlimited.
Exactly.
Like we've always wanted.
Where almost like every hero is welcome and they have a place on that team, you know, for the benefit of all. Everyone can exchange notes and help each other solve different, you know, crimes and problems and issues in their lives.
And I know me and you were both really happy when Damian threw his card away.
Absolutely. I was like, hell yeah, dude. And not only that, but you see Tim Drake walk through the new Hall of Justice and you're like, hell to the yes.
100%, let's go.
Yeah. And like we said, they're all coming together. It's a really like big historic event. Booster Gold is even referencing things that he, in the future where he works as security for the Justice League Museum, there's a membership card that we get to see now in the present and that he's given one from Superman.
So cool. And this is finally the moment. You guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but the way I understood it is that there was an event called 52 where, I'm not going to get into it too much, Booster Gold basically thinks that this is the moment in time in the 52 book that he is going to join the Justice League. And it doesn't happen. And the timeline's all fucked up and Superman's missing, blah, blah, blah. But the way I understood it is that back in 52, he was wrong about that. And this is the actual moment where he joins the true Justice League. And I thought that was such a nice moment for him because before that, he was like, I don't think there's anything left for me. Like, I've learned humility. I've become a hero. I think I'm going to go back to the future. And Superman's like, wait. How about join the Justice League instead?
Yeah, I love it because Booster Gold has always kind of felt like a black sheep of the DC universe. You know, he's a bit of a goofball. Not all the League members, like, respect him or take him seriously.
But Superman does.
Yeah, because Superman,
he sees the potential within him.
He sees the potential, and building off of the theme that's going to be revealed as the issue goes on, he is the embodiment of hope in this universe.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And second chances. And so, yeah, I agree. Seeing Booster Gold finally, like, come to the Hall of Justice feels absolutely amazing. But something doesn't feel right with him. Yeah. Something's not sitting well in his gut. And as we soon find out, the party's crashed by Darkseid.
Yeah, literally they're on the Watchtower for like 4 minutes and Darkseid's like, fuck you, I'm gonna kill all of you.
Yeah, and I love it because we find out at the end of this part of the issue that Darkseid has now gone to a different universe, a different Earth. And Booster Gold is the only one that can actually go after him because they need like time traveler particles or some like comic booky shit.
Yeah, whatever bullshit, tachyons, you know.
Time travel! He needs like time travel particles to go to this Earth so he doesn't become like desynchronized and just fade away or whatever it is. And he goes to this new Earth and Darkseid is the ruler.
Yeah. And then you basically get the upside down next part of the issue where you read all the events that you just read, but from Darkseid's perspective and what he's been doing during that time that the Justice League has been, you know, like pouring drinks and like saying toasts to how like great they are and shit. Darkseid's story picks up on Apocalypse like usual, and he's kind of in a weird place when the story starts where, like you said in one of our last videos, Darkseid has been kind of put through the ringer, like characterization wise in the last 20 years. He's been like the big bad of like every fucking event over and over and over. And in the last event that he was a part of, he became like a pawn of another shittier villain, which you're like, guys, this is not the move for Darkseid. This is not what you should be doing with this character. And he himself knows that. And he gets this kind of epiphany that, like, what if I don't want to be just like the universal constant for evil anymore? What if I don't want to just be like the bad guy that always loses and gets like punched by Superman? What if I want to make something of my own? And basically, like, every cosmic force in the universe and the cosmos is like, no, you can't. Like, you have to be the devil. Like, you can't do anything else.
Yeah, because they recognize that he is almost like how the MCU describes anchor beings. He's the anchor being of evil in this universe.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, everything kind of revolves around him to one point or another. And, you know, like you said, he kind of goes on this crusade to discover how to break free of this. It's such like a great meta, like, story point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where he's like, I don't want to be the antagonist anymore. I know. I don't want to be the guy that gets like the soft freaking, you know.
Literally, it's like Scott Snyder being like speaking through Darkseid and being like, I just want to be the writer, you know? Yeah. Like, I don't want to be the bad guy. I want to be the writer. And he goes on this crusade, like you said, where he's slaughtering all kinds of cosmic entities. And then finally he merges with the Spectre, which you're like, dude, well, the universe is over.
Can I just say that design
with the hood?
Dude.
So
that thing is with his arm severed off, because at one point of the issue he loses his arm, and he has that like massive blade coming from his stump, and he just looks so cool.
Yeah, who thought like putting a hood on Darkseid was like, I never thought of that. Unreal.
Yeah, and he basically uses the Spectre to transcend and break through this universe,
break through the multiverse and take over this planet, this like primordial planet called the Elseworld that was established a couple years ago. That was just in like this evolving state. It was still like a pre-Earth, like it was still molten, you know, nothing had evolved on it. And Darkseid poured all of his energy into this Earth, into this universe, and made it a DC alternate world of his own, where it's the same characters that we know and love, but they're influenced by Darkseid energy instead of hope.
Yeah, I love that. Like, he describes at one point that the main continuity Earth, you know, like Earth Prime or whatever it's called, that whole universe is fueled by Superman being the anchor being of hope. You know what I mean? All the villains of this universe are underdogs, but Darkseid's universe flips that idea on its head and says something along the lines of, this universe is going to be ruled by, you know, despair and hardship, and all these heroes that were these larger than life beings are going to be the underdogs, and they're going to have like their whole world / mythos against them. Exactly.
But guys, that's just DC All In #1. That's just the prologue. Let's get into the main event. Let's talk about the 3 debut first issues of the Absolute Universe and rank them.
Yeah, man. I mean, first off, let's talk about Superman.
Yes.
So, I think Superman is the weakest of the 3 main issues. I think there's a lot of potential there.
It is very much like just a setup issue.
It is a setup issue, and it feels kind of like it's retreading familiar ground to me. We start the issue in Brazil, and we follow these miners that are like, you know, mining different valuable ores for very, very little money, you know, basically helping like the corporate overlords gain just a few more dollars in their pockets.
Yeah, they're helping Lazarus Court, which I'm like, what does that mean?
And long story short, Superman ends up bailing them out, you know what I mean, helping them escape with some of the ore and kind of like freeing them from this like labor camp that they're in.
Pretty much.
For me, it felt very much like Superman. No, it felt very much like Birthright.
Okay, yeah.
And in the beginning of Birthright, which is also kind of like an origin story, you know, you see him in this other country, he's working as a reporter, but he still sees these like various injustices happening. He risks his identity to help out the little guy. Yeah. So that's where I kind of feel like we are treading familiar ground.
For sure. Where I think the issue really shines for me is their depiction of Krypton and their reimagining of that. I really like how they're introducing like caste system to Krypton, where it's not just like, you know, Jor-El is Superman, but he's a scientist and like they won't listen to him. Like, no, it's actually that there's like a
hierarchy.
Yeah, there's a power hierarchy. There's like the Science League on top, and that's like the elite, like the rich and the people that actually control Krypton, and they're characterized by their crests. So the higher ups, the Science League, they wear, I believe it looks like Rao, like Krypton's sun, and the people in the lowest caste, the labor force, all wear the Superman-esque crest.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucking crazy. And they're described as the people of steel because that's what they are. They're the backbone of the planet because they're just forced to be workers.
Yeah, and I love it too because it gives more of an explanation for why no one will take Jor-El's warning warnings to heart, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, you know, even in the original storyline, he's very well regarded in like the kind of social hierarchy of Krypton, but no one listens to him anyway, and you're kind of like, I don't really buy this.
Yeah, it's just like, I guess they're just like pompous and they don't believe that the planet's gonna explode. But in this one, it's revealed that when he presented them with his theories of the planet being basically on a collision course to explode, they took it as like heresy, and he was gonna be in the Science League, but when he brought these findings to them, they were like, no, you're gonna be part of the labor force, fuck you. And the same happened with Lara, Superman's mom.
And I love that they're both, like you said, underdogs. They're part of the labor force, but you know they have so much more to offer, and it's just this like dog shit class system that restrains them, and it ends up being the downfall of the planet, which I love, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's consequence and action for this class system. That being said, like you said, this is very much a setup issue.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more to tell from the story point of Krypton.
Yeah, and from like just Clark's characterization, he feels like almost a background character in the issue.
I agree 100%. And also, I'm very intrigued to see what they're doing with his powers.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know too much about it, but I've seen in some variant covers that it looks like he's siphoning power from like molten earth and rock.
Well, the way I saw it too is that, you know, there's this AI presence with him that's talking to him while he's evading the peacemakers of Lazarus, like the grunts that are, you know, trying to hunt him down in the present day in Brazil. This AI says something like, you've depleted yourself of solar energy, of storing solar energy.
Yeah, and I'm like, but isn't he just like out in the daytime? Like, how does he not have solar energy?
Yeah, and I think they're gonna do a different power set than what we're used to, because the way that his hands glow with this like solar cosmic energy, I feel like they're really gonna lean into the fact that he's kind of like a storage unit of this sun's power.
Yeah, and you see when he gets angry and he lets off like a huge blast of heat vision, you see his suit kind of like morph and start to like glow and almost look like it's like molten.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with it. I'm very intrigued though.
I have to say, like, I've seen a lot of people hate on the design.
It's fucking awesome.
I think it's really cool, and I think it still honors, like, you know, the traditional Superman look with the crest, you know what I mean, and the color scheme to a certain degree. It puts like a new twist on it that I'm really liking.
It does, and the lore of Krypton gives you a new perspective on his super suit design, because it pretty much just looks like what Jor-El's wearing when he's like a coal miner on Krypton, basically. And like it makes him feel like an underdog, like he's supposed to. He doesn't look like a superhero.
Yeah, and that kind of fits perfectly in the theme of this new like Omega-verse, where all the heroes are underdogs and they're like just put down and beat upon by society and their environments, and getting to see the kind of contrast between Jor-El's story being put down by, you know, Krypton and the elites and not taken seriously, and then seeing
the exact same thing happen to Cal.
Exactly, being the underdog, being chased by the authorities, being chased by that world. I'm very intrigued to see where it goes from here.
Agreed. I know what you're gonna
we just gave each other a look like we both realized the talking point we missed. There is a tease
for Brainiac. And a friend of mine pointed out that he thinks Brainiac is Lex. And I'm like,
oh,
yeah. Because he looks like he's Earth-based, you know?
Yeah, he has all these TV screens around him. Very like Riddler-esque, where he's looking at all these different panels of information.
And he also has like bottled cities.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay guys, you got me with that final page.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens here.
Oh, really quick, how do you feel about Lois being like a kind of soldier? I feel like that's kind of been done a lot too in alternate universes. Like we see that in Flashpoint a lot too, and in Scott Snyder's Justice League run, where like, oh, how do we make Lois Lane different? Like, oh, she's a soldier that's against Superman. I was like, okay.
Inevitably, I think it's going to be like a Stockholm Syndrome kind of like love story between them, you know what I mean? Sure. Where he's her prisoner and they end up, you know, like finding common ground and helping each other in some way.
Yeah.
And it would be very unexpected if they don't tread that familiar route. Imagine if she's just an antagonist and just like a force opposing Superman. I think that could be pretty interesting.
That could be really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know I'm buying issue 2.
Absolutely. Next issue we want to talk about, Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I think Wonder Woman, how she's depicted in issue 1,
one of the coolest versions of her ever.
And it's created a world that I want to read more about. You know what I mean? So often we read these superheroes and these storylines for the character, but the depiction of Wonder Woman's world and the lore, I just want to know more about it.
I know. So basically the conceit of Absolute Wonder Woman is that there are no Amazons. When we hop into the story, the Amazons are all gone. There's only one of them left, and it's Diana. She's the last Amazon, and she's dropped off in hell
by Apollo.
The sun god. And bestows Diana upon Cersei, who is like one of Wonder Woman's greatest villains in the main continuity. And Cersei basically raises Diana and loves her like a mother. And I'm like, that's the coolest, weirdest fucking idea I've ever heard.
In hell.
In hell. And it's cool because it's not like the underworld. It's not like a typical Grecian hell, you know. It's not like Cerberus and fucking Hades and stuff. Is it just an island also like Themyscira? Like that's obscured? Or is it Themyscira?
That's what I mean by the lore of this universe. I want to know more.
Do you think that's possible? Do you think like that used to be Themyscira and now it's hell because the gods have raised it and like destroyed the Amazons?
Time will tell. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of into that.
I'm very into it. And I like that there's a bigger conspiracy going on between what the gods' intents are with Diana.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when Apollo drops her off, he says that the other Amazons are in Zeus's captivity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've all been banished to like, I don't know, be some kind of labor force for him or something. Serve out a sentence. And we don't know what the backstory is there. Like, what have they done? Who's the bad guy?
Yeah, and he also decrees that, like, henceforth, no one is allowed to say the word Amazon.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? And then when Cersei says it, her speech bubble is, like, all crossed out. I'm like, what's up with that?
And it feels kind of like they're taking a real-life Greek mythology approach where the gods are going to be sadistic and, like, crazy.
Bro, Apollo is a fucker. We already know.
Yeah.
Like, he's a piece of shit already. He drops off Diana in Cersei's arms, and she's like, what am I supposed to do with her? Like, this is hell. And he's like, the gods care not.
Yeah, do whatever you want. Let her die, take care of her, I don't give a fuck.
Like, why didn't you just kill her?
I know.
Why are you even leaving her here?
But that's why it also gives me a feeling like there might be some kind of double agency going on. Maybe
Apollo?
Maybe Apollo. There's got to be a reason why Wonder Woman was saved and brought here. You know what I mean? There has to be a reason. And I want to know what the conspiracy here is with this story. And just on the subject of Diana, because we've talked a lot about the world and the setup, I really like that despite all of the things that we've seen with this world and with her upbringing in hell, she still kind of feels like regular comic Diana.
She does. It's like that's how strong her personality and her character and her resolve are, that she still is Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and you see her like playing with like all the like little demon reptiles and stuff as she grows up.
Yeah, they're like pets.
Yeah, she shows them love, you know, she shows them unconditional love, even when they're like, there's one panel specifically where one's like biting her, and she just like knocks on the head, like, bad demon, stop that, you know what I mean?
It's so good.
And when you see her at the end, when she comes up from hell and she faces down the demon, you know, taking over, you know, the present world.
Using magic, which I love. I'm like, finally, Wonder Woman can like do magic, you know? And I love when she unleashes all her power and she takes out the lasso, which like, I don't know what kind of lasso that is, but it looks sick. And she says like, I'm Diana, like the last Amazon. I am like the witch of the Wild Isle. And she starts using magic.
Princess of Hell.
Princess of Hell. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Of the three issues that we're talking about, the lore and the story I'm most intrigued with this one.
I fully agree. But I think now we're talking about the main event.
Yeah, absolute Batman.
Absolute Batman fucking bangs, dude.
It was very surprising.
I know.
And
for me too, I was like, because when they first showed it, I was like, oh, it's Batman, but he's like, looks like Hulk. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I read it and I was like, oh shit, I was wrong.
It was really refreshing to have Scott Snyder at the wheel again, telling Batman's story.
And it felt like he hasn't missed a beat since
I know.
then. I was like, oh my god, we're back to like 2011.
It just felt like seeing like a familiar friend, you know what I mean? That's like a great friend, but you only see them a couple times a year.
I've seen some people complain about like how Scott Snyder does his like Batman monologues and when he talks about Gotham. I don't think anyone does it better than him.
Yeah.
We pick up and there's this internal monologue going on in these gray and black caption boxes. And you're like, oh, it's Batman talking. And the voice is talking about how Gotham is like, it's grown and it's beautiful, but it's still like, it's still a facade.
Yeah.
And he's saying how like Gotham has like lost its heart, like who's taken it from you. And then the guy stops his motorcycle and takes off his helmet and you're like, oh, I thought it was Batman. And he takes off the helmet and he's like, my name is Alfred Pennyworth and I'm here to do some very bad things. And I was like,
it's so sick. In this universe, Alfred is a contract killer.
yeah, he's like Deathstroke, basically.
This is what I mean, though. Like, this universe has so much potential because it takes these characters that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
You know, Batman's faithful, like, subservient butler, and they make him into a contract killer. I'm like, holy shit.
I know, but it toes this line of like making the most drastic change you could imagine, but it still feels like right. Like
New but familiar.
yeah, but it still feels like this could happen happened. Like, Alfred could have absolutely been like one of the world's top killers if he never like went to America and got with the Waynes. You know?
Yeah, and I love the story. It follows, you know, Alfred being contracted to observe this new gang that's in Gotham that's just like wreaking havoc. But the contractors tell him, oh, there's a new player on the scene. If you see this player, like referencing Batman, engage him. You're free to engage him. And seeing the story from Alfred's perspective and seeing this universe's Bruce Wayne, it's awesome. Like, take down this gang.
Yeah.
And I love that, you know, the contractors tell Alfred, kill the Batman if you see him.
Sure.
And Alfred's observing this gang wreak havoc on, like,
City Hall, yeah.
and when he sees Batman putting a stop to it, he doesn't engage him at first. And that's
like, oh, it's an idealist, like a bloody hell.
yeah, but at that same point, you can still feel that this universe's Alfred isn't all bad, because you can see he
has a moral code, and like Alfred clearly wants to engage them, and you know he could rinse all of them in like a matter of seconds, but his handler is like, you're ordered not to engage. So I'm like, does this handler have something to do with the party animals? Like, why are you so okay with letting them kill people?
100%. And, you know, the Omegaverse, once again, having all the cards stacked against these characters, and we get to see that Bruce didn't grow up a rich boy, you know what I mean?
Nope. Thomas was a school teacher.
Yeah, that ended up getting killed on a field trip, which is so fucked up.
And we see that Bruce has grown up like middle class. He's still mentally Bruce, you know, like he has that drive and that determination in him to become the best at everything.
And I love it too, because it's such a great fuck you to the real life argument where everyone's like, oh, he wouldn't be Batman if he was poor, like he's only got this far because of his gadgets.
But fuck you, yeah, he would.
Yeah, because you get the explanation of how he became, you know, who he is with very limited resources, you know what I mean? And just his drive and his determination, studying at these different universities, getting scholarships just so he can study criminology and things like that. And also, can we just talk about how much of a freaking unit he is?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, so Darkseid's conceit was like, for my universe, you know, I'm gonna make like everyone the underdog and all the heroes are gonna have everything stacked against them, but also Bruce is gonna be 7'3", and I'm like,
yeah, 600 pounds.
Yeah, legit.
It's ridiculous.
And it's so great when they first introduce him in the issue. You see this one guy that looks like Earth Prime Bruce, like at the gym, you know, like hitting the bag and stuff. And then actual Bruce comes in and he's like, oh, excuse me, it's my turn. And then it pans to Bruce and he's Hulk.
Yeah.
He's fucking massive.
He's massive. And I love that he's so physically imposing, but they're choosing to go with a younger Bruce for this story. He's only 24, but you can tell that Bruce has already been doing this for at least a year. You know, he's set up, he has his system going, even though it's still very amateurish to some degree. But I love that even with his limited resources, he's still going about it, you know what I mean? And still paving a way in Gotham.
Absolutely. You know what else I love? That like he's boys with all the villains. You know, like
Leo and Jones has like the boxing gym.
Yeah, and they have poker night once a week with Harvey and Oz
and Selena
and Eddie and Selena. And I'm like, what are you cooking here, Scott?
It's so refreshing, man. This whole universe, it just feels like we're getting to experience
the birth of something like really special.
I know, the birth, and like there's so much potential here.
Yeah. Did you think that this Batman was going to be like a killer when they first announced him? I did,
mostly because I saw him with the giant Batarang axe.
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you
no.
gonna do with that if you're not gonna kill people? Oh, you're gonna like dismember people's limbs.
But I kind of love that.
I do.
You know what I mean?
It
like
was sick.
He's brutal, and I think because he's not afforded like quote unquote the luxuries of being the main continuity Batman with all of his, you know, vast resources, I like that he kind of has to play dirty.
He does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he cuts that guy's hand off, and then he's like, oh, I've heard they can reattach them sometimes. Like, there's a hospital 3 blocks south, or is it east? I'm not sure. You should start running. And I'm like, I missed Scott on Batman.
Yeah.
A lot, dude.
I don't know if this is gonna happen, but I like that they're kind of setting up Alfred and Batman's like inevitable team up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they
and
are.
pooling their resources.
100%.
And I don't know about you, but I'm just so excited to have like a physically capable Alfred in stories.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
Bruce and Alfred going on missions together is gonna be fucking peak.
I agree.
And also, Scott just couldn't help himself at the end. You're not happy about this?
Nah.
You're not?
No.
They kind of got me with it, because the issue ends and Bruce has another confrontation with Alfred, and he like drives off a building with Alfred's stolen bike, and it's so cool. And then you get a little epilogue where Alfred's handler is telling him how they lost Alfred's old case, like the guy he was tracking in Singapore. And you see that it's this guy called the Joker, and you're like, okay, Scott.
Yeah, and they say like he's called the Joker because he never laughs.
Yeah, or never smiles. Yeah.
Which is like, it's a fun plot twist, I'm kind of on the fence about this because this universe feels like there's so much unlimited potential. And even if it's a new Joker, I just feel kind of like Jokered out. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's gonna be like a new take on the character.
I feel extremely Jokered out. It feels like every time we get a new Batman project, like they have to shoehorn him into the first appearance. And that's not to say like I think Joker should exist in every Batman universe.
100%.
But you don't always have to show him in the first thing.
I agree. I was gonna say that I was hoping they were gonna go with like a new kind of refreshing first villain take. You know, they had some great setup with Wayland and, like you said, the other villains that are just presented as Bruce's friends.
Well, and I still think like Black Mask is the main villain of this arc, you know, with the party animals.
Yeah, but the fact that they tease him at the end of the first issue.
Yeah, like pump the brakes on Joker a bit, you know?
I agree. And it's not because I don't want to see Joker at all in this universe. I was just hoping to not have him so early. Because Joker very much, you know, there's no debate. Joker is Batman's greatest villain. One of the greatest villains in the DC universe.
Yeah, and if you're doing a new Batman take, like, you gotta build him up a little bit.
Exactly, and it kind of feels like Joker is always Batman's endgame in terms of villains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it kind of feels a bit premature to have him now.
It does. And listen, it is just a first issue, so we don't really know what we're cooking with it, but after initially reading it, I felt like you could have put this Joker scene at the end of the first arc and not the first issue.
I agree, 100%.
And then that would have been like, oh shit, like I'm buying arc 2 for sure. And I still probably am, but it just feels a little premature.
Yeah. That being said, this universe has so much great storytelling to offer. I think we're both very excited. And it feels kind of like we're in a DC Comics renaissance right now.
It really does. It feels like we're all hands on deck. We're going all in.
DC is recognizing that you can still have the main continuity comics that we all love. We've all grown up reading mainline Earth Prime, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman comics, but being able to take those characters and, like you said before, have them feel familiar but new at the same time and tell stories that wouldn't be possible in the mainline comics.
Yeah.
It just feels like the sky's the limit, and I'm so excited for the future.
And it really feels like finally, after a lot of years of DC feeling like they're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, it feels like they really have pride in this new initiative that they're doing and getting huge names like Scott back on Batman, Jason Aaron from fucking Marvel on Superman, and Kelly Thompson on Wonder Woman. I'm like, this is incredible.
I really like the point that you just brought up. It felt like up until now, the way DC was trying to make their comics feel fresh and new is like, oh, let's just bring all the characters' issues back to number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's do Rebirth, Batman issue 1. You know what I mean? Let's do New 52, Batman issue 1. And yeah, it got you into those comics, but at the same time, like we said, there was always that feeling of familiarity going into them, but having all this new potential, I'm so excited.
When these Absolute Trinity members first meet, I'm gonna shit bricks. I'm gonna lose my mind.
And it just makes me want to see, like, how are they going to interpret other characters? How is Dick Grayson going to be interpreted in this universe?
No, we already have Absolute Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter announced. Dude, I'm all in.
We're all in. We're absolutely all in.
It's like a paid by DC.
No, literally, we need a sponsorship ASAP, man. Guys, if you've read the Absolute series, let us know your thoughts. Are you as excited as we are? Is the future looking bright from your perspective?
Are you all in?
Are you all in? Yeah, no, that's the tagline. Guys, that's it from us. If you like the video, leave a like on it. Consider subscribing, join the Comic Lads, and we'll see you next time.
We love you.
We love you dearly.
Peace.
Peace. Peace.